what can we do right now to appreciate where we are so we can open up space for, what did you call it? The next better job?
Yeah, the better job. There's always a better job. I'm loving my job now, but there are some things about it. Working 17 hours a day, not necessarily knowing what the revenue is on a monthly basis. I wouldn't call that a dream.
Yeah. I like that. I like that framing. Okay, so what's a first step for someone if they want to shift into a better space?
So we developed, I like acronyms, the growth framework. And it starts with first identifying your goals. And like Stephen Covey talks about in the 7 habits of highly effective people, habit number 2 is start with the end in mind.
Hey everyone, it's Amy Lynn Durham, and you're listening to Create Magic at Work. Create Magic at Work is on a mission to equip senior leaders with tools they need to be a true quantum leader and actually understand what that means. Improve employee engagement, retain top talent, and transform your workplace culture to have less drama and stress. So let's start making magic. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Create Magic at Work. Today, I'm excited to bring this resource to the Create Magic at Work community. So get ready, make sure you turn up the volume because I have Alan Stein with me. He is the founder, CEO, and chief accelerator of Kadima Careers. So if you are a longtime listener of the podcast, way back, I think it was like season 2, I had Ashley Clevens Hayes on the show, and we talked about, she was a career coach, a very sought after one. And we had a really interesting discussion about how do you find your dream job? Well, Alan is here today to dive into that a little bit deeper with everyone and really talk about how we can really get there and what that looks like for you. So let me tell you a little bit more about Alan. Alan has had a nearly 30-year career as a global leader spanning some of the best companies in the world, at which he interviewed thousands and hired hundreds of candidates. We have that in common a little bit. The interview and the candidates part, the hundreds and thousands. After graduating from Columbia Business School in 2005, he held leadership roles in marketing at American Express, operations at Google, data management at Facebook, and customer success at Salesforce. Alan is now in his 6th distinct career as an entrepreneur, where he teaches job seekers, particularly those in underrepresented groups, a learnable skill, how to land a great job making good money at a leading company. Way cool. And of course, you can connect with Alan on LinkedIn if you're already like, I need to talk to somebody to help me land my next great job and make more money. And we'll put all that in the show notes. But Alan, welcome to Create Magic at Work. Thank you for being here.
So much, Amy Lynn. I'm a big fan of yours, and not just because you showed up on my podcast, but a big fan.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to really get into it because I have so much to ask you. But first off, tell us a little bit about your past work experience and what inspired you to really create Kadima Careers. Because one of the things that I'm really excited about is that I can expose the Create Magic at Work community to these resources that are available to them. Because when I was in the corporate space, I had no idea, even if there was something like Kadima Careers that I could reach out to and be like, hey, help me strategize my next move. Help me negotiate a pay raise, especially women in the workplace, right? So give us a little we're going to get into all that, but give us a little backstory on your inspiration for starting Kadima and how that came about.
Yeah. So for some reason, I am very good at achieving goals, like career-related goals. So when I was in undergrad school, I was a psych major, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I was told, "Oh, be a clinical psychologist. That's hard to do, so you should do that." So I did that. I applied for schools that would give me a full ride, and I got into University of Delaware with a full ride. After that, I was told, oh, go to Wall Street. Wall Street can make a lot of money. So I figured out how to get into Wall Street because of nepotism. Like my dad worked there and he got me hired there. But I wound up on Wall Street. After there, because of serendipity, I wound up in venture capital. And that's why I'm a big believer of increasing your surface area of luck. Because just because of the luck that I was playing fantasy baseball with my buddy Josh and he was IMing me back then and looking for someone to hire in venture capital, did I get the job? So there's a lot of luck here as well. But I'm very good at getting jobs in venture capital. Then I wanted to work in baseball. I figured out how to work for the New York Mets and the Toronto Blue Jays minor league affiliates. Then I wanted to go to business school, and I figured out how to get into one of the top business schools in the world and stay in New York with my wife, where she is, and she's a doctor. And then I wanted to work at a top marketing company, and I figured out how to do that. Then I wanted to work in tech, and I didn't say Google or bust, but I did want to work at top tech companies, and I figured out how to get into Google. So I'm very good at achieving goals. I'm not always great at staying there after. And so I have been in 21 companies at 29 jobs, and 5 of them I was asked to leave. But 24 of them I left on my own volition. So I'm very good at understanding how to get a job. And then from the inside, I've interviewed a lot of people. I've hired lots of people. I always volunteered for that. I would always go on campus and recruit talent, even though I'm not a recruiter. I was never a recruiter. I worked in customer success, operations, finance, marketing. But I hired people on my team, and I always cared about that. So I just have a unique insight into this, and I kind of geek out on the subject, and I see how impure it is and how influenceable it is. And now I'm trying to help people that did not have the same insight, expertise, privilege that I was fortunate to be born with, and help them work this system.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you say you've recognized ways to influence this. I've never thought of it that way. How can I influence this situation or this path that I feel inspired to take? And I don't know if I would call what some of your circumstances were as luck. I for some reason, I thought of that quote, luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
For most. And at the same time, recognizing that a lot of us work in systems that don't support us, right? We're still trying to reshape some workplace systems and cultures and all of those things. So what would you say to someone that's listening, like, I'm ready to find my next job. I'm ready to step into what I feel like is my dream job. What would be a first step for them?
So first off, one of my pet peeves is I don't believe in dream jobs. I don't believe in perfect jobs, but there's always a better job, because I've seen too many people get into their dream jobs and then turn out that it was a nightmare or it was not what was expected. And they're always chasing this dream. So anyway, that's just me.
No, I love that. Let's pause there, because I think you're pointing out something that's really profound, and that's the chase.
Yeah.
And I think that's a call for all of us to take a look at where we're at in our journey and really ask ourselves if we are enjoying the journey or if we're constantly looking for the finish line. And if we're constantly chasing, we will never be satisfied. The carrot will always get moved farther down the line. And what can we do right now to appreciate where we are so we can open up space for, what did you call it? The next better job?
Yeah, the better job. There's always a better job. I'm loving my job now, but there are some things about it. Working 17 hours a day, not necessarily knowing what the revenue is on a monthly basis. I wouldn't call that a dream.
Yeah. I like that. I like that framing. Okay, so what's a first step for someone if they want to shift into a better space?
So we develop, I like acronyms, the growth framework. And it starts with first identifying your goals. And like Stephen Covey talks about in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, habit number 2 is start with the end in mind. So you need to know where you're going. And that requires a lot of deep thought and introspection, sometimes talking to a coach or a therapist or a life partner or something like that to understand what's important to you. Once you figure out what's important to you, figure out what organizations or companies can help you get there. And I'm generally a proponent of people working for companies. I know you can do things entrepreneurial. You're doing that. I'm doing that. It's not all that is cracked up to be all the time. And there's lots of good stability for working for a company, especially early in your career. So, but figure out those organizations. The second thing in the growth framework is realistically assess your strengths, leverage your strengths. It could be something that you're good at. It could be something that it should be something you're good at and interested in. And almost everybody has something that they're good at and interested in. And if you think hard enough, there'll be a couple of those things that overlap. Then outreach, build that network, because people get jobs because of who they know. Lots of people are qualified for jobs, but there's only 5 people that are going to get the interview, and only one person's going to get that job. So if you want to be in that final 5, you need to influence a process, and the best way to influence that process is through reaching out and building relationships and getting a referral. The fourth part is working the system, understanding where to apply, when to apply, how to apply, and consistently doing that. The T of growth is training and tenacity. Train for these interviews. They're very trainable. They're very preparable. But also develop your tenacity, because you are going to fail. And if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. And then H, at the very end, high impact negotiation. Don't get distracted by money. Everybody wants money. I want money. I'm assuming you want money. People want more money. And whatever you do with that money, it gives you freedom. It gives you opportunity. It gives you more food on your plate. It gives you education. It gives you healthcare. At the end, that's when you negotiate. So that's a growth framework, GROWTH. But that's how you get a job.
Thank you for being so generous in sharing those steps with everyone. Of course, at Kadima, if someone goes to Kadima and they grab a coach, they'll deep dive into those steps with them, right? Which I'm partnered with.
You're one of our amazing coaches, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. We sprinkle also with me a little magic glitter dust to manifest that great job.
I think it's important that people, our clients, have their choice of the coach, and we share with them different models and different perspectives, because what you do is amazing and you help so many people. But you probably know that some clients you click with, some clients you don't, and vice versa. So we're trying to get our clients to click with the right coach, with the right mindset, the right coaching that works with that individual.
Yeah. And I think going back to what you said, that perhaps at first some people might say, well, I just want more money and I want to work for this exact company. You peel back the layers a little bit and it's like, well, what do you really want to feel fulfilled in life? What do you really want so you're maintaining inner peace during times of great stress in your life? What does that look like? Yeah. And it might not be that fancy company name, but it might be an environment that you can thrive in and get paid well and feel like your life is fulfilled. Just adding my lens to that. I want to get into the H of the growth framework, which is negotiating. It doesn't start with an H. I forget the H.
High impact negotiation. I called it haggling at first, but then haggling kind of has a negative connotation, but it's high impact negotiation. It's an opportunity where you can earn the most amount of money. And if you look over your overall career trajectory of having multiple jobs, the more that you can negotiate at these points of inflection, the more it's going to pay off in the long term. Yeah.
I got to tell you, throughout my leadership journey, I don't know if I was ignorant or just a product of the systems I was in. I never was consciously aware that I could negotiate my salary as I moved through the corporate space, except for possibly when annual reviews came about. And I definitely botched those. I would just clam up and be like, hey, thanks. Like, thanks for the 5% or, whatever I scored. And it would just be this uncomfortable moment where there wasn't effective communication. So let's take it back to what are these points of inflection that you're talking about?
Yeah. And in your point, you were with AT&T for several years, right?
I was with different subsidiaries of AT&T. Actually, one of my parent companies was GameStop at one point. Yeah.
Okay. So, yes. But you were at that organization for about 11 or 12 years.
I was in that sphere for 2 decades almost. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're thinking about your annual performance review and your merit-based increase, you actually have very little opportunity to negotiate that because there's all policies that the company is following. And they got to keep everybody in line with 3 to 8% increase or whatever the range is. Where you do have, so don't feel bad about not negotiating there. There's very minimal you can do. The best thing you can do there while in a job at a company is fight for a quicker promotion trajectory. The more often you get promoted, the more of a step change you'll get in compensation. That's where you get the biggest jump. So you aim for speed to promotion if you're within the company. Okay. Outside of the company, that's where when you get a new offer, the company is telling you, they're tipping their cards of saying, Amy Lynn, we want to hire you. You're the best person we have here now. We want to hire you. It's already taken us a while to sift through people. It's going to be easier now if we hire you. They say it they say it differently than that. But if you treat them politely, respectfully, and have a conversation with them and have some data points at your ready, you can influence that conversation. You can ask for more. And the worst that's going to happen is you're going to end up with that new job at that offer that they said. The best that can happen is you can get $143,000 more. That's a record that we got for somebody because she effectively negotiated with Google. We got her up from $400,000 to $443,000. So there are ways to do it, and it's when you get that new job is the best time. And then you can also go back to your current company, by the way. If you want to stay at your current company, the best way to get a raise at your current company is to get another offer.
So good. So good. Because no one ever shared this with me, and I'm assuming a lot of other leaders in the workplace. Especially, I want to highlight maybe people, that aren't white men, middle-aged men. I don't know. I just feel like, and then there's this whole thing that comes about with the energy around negotiating. Like if I look at masculine and feminine energy and sort of the yin and yang of that, feminine energy is more let me sit back and receive.
Yeah.
And it's almost like stepping into your masculine if you're going to go into that negotiating phase, which is great, right? There's healthy aspects of both. It's just the permission to step into that moment. I want to share a story with you. Well, but one more thing that I got from what you just said before I move into the story. It goes back to what just came up for me in the beginning. The preparation meets opportunity equals luck or success, right? One thing that really stood out to me in sharing these tips with all of us is when the person was ready to negotiate, they had the data, they were ready, they had the coaching. They didn't just step into a meeting kind of flying by the seat of their pants and well, what am I going to, they walked in prepared to negotiate. And it doesn't have to feel icky. It has, and a lot of it is tied to, I'm worthy of this. Yeah. And it's okay for me to ask for this. And what a big leap that is for some that haven't felt like they've had a voice. That is so cool. Let me share this other story with you because I want to hear your feedback on it. I don't think I've ever publicly shared this story. So I hope I don't. Anyways, I'm going to share it. So I was working in the exact same position as my peers across the country. I was running one of the most expensive areas in the country, Silicon Valley, plus all the way down, San Francisco, all the way down to the middle of California. And I was ranked on our scorecard top 3 most of the time, would fluctuate number 2, number 1. And I discovered that I was not being paid the same as my peers in the exact same position.
Not a surprise. And I'm guessing those other 2 people were men?
The majority of them were, yeah. I was probably like the 10% across there were 2 other female directors in the country, and I was covered by the Western portion. So I don't know too much, but I know that I was significantly being underpaid compared to my peers. So I had no idea how to handle this. I was irritated. I was upset. I knew I was doing good work. And frankly, I felt like even if I was ranked last, I should be getting paid the same, if not more, So anyways, I share this because I didn't ask for a raise. I asked for pay that was commensurate to my peers doing the same job, because I didn't think that it was a raise, in my opinion. And the answer I got was, in effect, no, in not so many words. We can't do that. And there was never really any proof that, like on paper, that I was getting paid less. And then one day, my supervisor accidentally sent all of us our expense budgets for the year. And there was a column on the spreadsheet that wasn't deleted that showed everyone's annual salary. And mine was clearly not the same. And I was the only woman on the team. And I'm not saying it was because I was the only woman, but it was just kind of like, what is going on here? And I never had resolution on that. So I just share that story because if someone is in that, it can't just be me that's in that position, right? Add on to that, I was the president of the Women's Employee Resource Group for the nation. And I was tasked with helping to move more women into higher leadership roles. And that was interesting. But I always was like, why can't we just pull the HR payroll report and just true up everyone that's misaligned? I don't understand why that easy, simple step. I mean, I know, like, anyways, that is my deep, dark, confessional with you here in the podcast. And I want to hear all your thoughts on that.
Well, I'm sorry that you've gone through that. It's not surprising. So I'm not in shock or surprised. One thing that I think men do a better job of is always in performance management conversations with people. I think men would more often talk about the compensation and wanting to get paid more. And even though they couldn't really negotiate so much, I guess there's some more talk there. But there were some women on my team also that cared a lot about that compensation, and they got paid well. So I think, but I found more men would talk to me about it as their boss. It would come up about how important that was for them. The other thing is, it doesn't surprise me that there is that difference. I think the data out there says women get paid about 76 cents on the dollar. There's different numbers out there, but it's putrid, whatever it is. So that's not surprising. I think what ultimately it's your call of what you do with that information. So you can first, and it sounds like you asked for some fairness and equity here, and they didn't give that. And then the next thing you do, or you could choose to do, is say, I'm going to take my value and shop it elsewhere and get paid what I'm worth. And then they might come to the table and say, oh shit, we need to retain Amy Lynn here, so we're going to true her up with that offer externally. Then you have leverage and you can, So I'm sorry that happened to you. It's not surprising. It happens all the time. We teach people the year of 2. The new every 2 rule. Every 2 years, you should be going up in an organization in terms of getting promoted or significant more scope and responsibility, over in terms of functional or regional or some other way to stretch yourself And if you're not getting that opportunity internally and you're not happy with your career trajectory, get the hell out. So every 2 years, up, over, or out.
Wow.
It's, yeah, but that's if it's your choice. Sometimes people are comfortable in their job and maybe have an old parent to care for, or maybe just don't want to bust it. And that's totally cool too. But if you are someone that cares about your career trajectory and cares about optimizing for career success and career compensation, use the 2-year rule.
So good. A couple of things that stood out for me too was how you generalize, and that's good, that you hear it voiced more from men. And I find that interesting too, if you look at like healing businesses or like the spiritual space, like I know a lot of healers and they have, I don't want to say the word issue, but like they have something with like charging for their work, right? And I think that energy kind of transfers in. I would say that the people that aren't voicing that it's important to them, it probably is, but they're just not voicing it, right? Because being compensated appropriately for your time and energy is super important, and it allows so many freedoms and opportunities. I saw, the stuff I'm saying in this interview. I saw a quote the other day from Elvest. It's a women's investment company that I follow. And they said that they did some sort of poll, and that I can't remember the percentage, but it was super high, like at least over like 2/3 of women would leave the relationship they were in if they made more money or had some sort of like, and I was like, my gosh, that speaks to like the freedom and the power of money. And so to bring it back, like the fact that we're talking about this, hey, this is an option. You can actually go into a job offer prepared to negotiate with the data. And oh, by the way, Alan at Kadima Careers and the team can help you do that, is like a really cool resource that I never knew of when I was in the space. So I hope everybody listening really can just even think about that or take a look or step into doing that for themselves. Any other before I pull a message for everyone today, it's going to be interesting what comes up after all this. Do you have any final tips, thoughts for anyone listening that's like, gosh, I just feel like I'm ready for something more fulfilling? What would you say?
Own your career. That's like, those are 3 words that I always repeat. Own your choices. Like, decide where you want to go. And if you're having trouble finding out how to get there, you can always find me on LinkedIn. There's lots of other good books and resources out there. But decide your path. Own your career. Own your life. Don't let things happen to you. Let them happen for you, and take some ownership. I know it's not always easy. And I know from a white dude's perspective who was born in the United States in the 1970s, I have a very different perspective and lived experience than other people. But we all have the ability to control how we feel and control what actions we do, or most of us do. Everyone who's listening to this podcast has that ability. So own your career.
So good. So empowering, right? Moves us from almost like that, some of us out of maybe like that victim mentality a little bit. It's a nice energetic shift. Okay. I'm going to get a message for everyone right now from my journal prompt card deck. You can find it on createmagicatwork.net in the shop. It's a deck of 33 cards for your work and for your career. And this message is for everyone listening. Okay, this is out of 33. You saw me, Alan, right? Like, look, we got finances.
Okay, cool.
So cool. So we were talking about money. Okay, so the affirmation for everyone is, I make decisions with sound judgment and I attract good fortune. Talk about an empowering, owning your career statement. I make decisions with sound judgment and I attract good fortune. Repeat that to yourself if you're listening. So, Alan, what are some ways? I mean, we talked about so many today, but this is a question on the card. So if you have one more, how can anyone listening support those who are ready to help themselves? Like if there's high level leaders listening and maybe they're ready on that 2-year mark, something. How can they support those who are ready to help themselves? How can we support those who are ready to help themselves?
Yeah, I think it's always great to help others. As a manager, as a leader, I have advised some people to take another job because they were getting paid more. They had a better opportunity. Some of them came back to me later on, but that's not why I did it. I just did it because it was the right thing to do. So for people that are able to empower others to take charge and to take a path that makes sense for that individual, like be selfish with your advice. Don't think about how it's going to benefit you as the leader or the person. Think about what's it going to do for that individual that you're giving the advice to. And even if it's slight hit to you and your team, you'll be better off for it. You'll attract more talent and you might get that person to stay anyway.
Thank you. I feel like I have a new perspective just after this conversation on freedom in your career in the workplace.
Okay.
Because if you really do a deep dive, if all of us do, on what fills us up with work, like for me, it was achieving goals. It was connecting my team in a way that nobody else could. And I could do that in other spaces. It didn't have to be that exact space, right? And the more, if I maybe had a different life and didn't start Create Magic at Work, right? This is my life purpose. But if I had shifted into another space and made more money, I could still do that. I could still achieve goals and still bring human connection to the team. So it's kind of like, what is that? And it doesn't have to have a label. And then how can you tap into that freedom, that financial freedom from that? That really is what a new shift for me from our conversation. So,
yeah, I think take ownership. If you can own the finances, money is essentially a proxy for freedom in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And it can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you freedom. You can get people to do stuff for you. You can pay people to do stuff for you that you do not want to do, and then you can be free of those tasks. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. Ellen, thank you so much. If people want help negotiating, helping to find their next better job, how can they connect with you to do that?
Sure. Best way is on LinkedIn, Alan Stein, ALAN STEIN, or also go to KadimaCareers.com, KADIMA, careers.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for creating this resource for everyone. And thank you for helping to send some magic to everyone today.
Thank you, Amy Lynn. I appreciate sharing a little bit of magic with you and your audience.
I want to thank each and every one of you for coming back every week to listen to a new episode of Create Magic at Work and really helping to support and advocate for healthy leaders, workplaces, and lives for all of us. If you want any information on how to connect with me, click on the link in the show notes. You'll get access to all of the social media links for Create Magic at Work. Stay following along for more amazing episodes where we help you improve productivity and profitability in the workplace and decrease stress. Sending magic to everyone, and see you next time.